Hey, what's going on? It's Jeff Newport from ChasingStrength.com. And in today's video, we are going to discuss how to keep from accidentally fooling yourself with your kettlebell workouts. So what I mean by this is a lot of us wish that we lived in magic land, right? So magic land is where we'd be able to eat what we wanted, when we wanted to do it, work out exactly the way we wanted, right? Drink as much as we wanted, and we would still wake up looking and performing like some combination of Ah-nold, Schwarzenegger. That's a terrible impersonation of Ah-nold. Get to the chopper, right? So Schwarzenegger combined with our favorite military special operator, combined with some elite athlete of our choice, right? So we'd be essentially Superman. God, man, it's just tough. If only Magic Land actually existed, right? Oh well. But, as a result, many folks end up training like a cat high on nip and chasing a laser pointer. One day they want to do one arm, one leg push up, right? For reps. So that's what they're training for. That's what they're working out for. The next day they're chasing half their body weight in a single arm military press, also for reps. And by the way, their goal is to do it so it's so easy. They're doing this while sipping their cup of coffee at the same time, right? The next day, right, they're training for the Strong First or RKC 5-minute snatch test, right? So they want to snatch a 24 kilo, 5 minutes, 100 reps or more. But that's not really good enough. They want to be able to do 2 snatch tests back to back, and they want to be able to do it in 7 minutes, right? So that's Thursday, and then Friday rolls around, okay, and suddenly they want to pack on 20 pounds of muscle while simultaneously losing 20 pounds of fat while studying to be a vegan chef. Now, of course, I'm kidding mostly, but look, here's the problem with kettlebells and kettlebell workouts and programs. It's that somehow many of us were sold, the old magic beans, right? All we had to do was toss these magic beans over our heads, and out of the ground would sprout a giant beanstalk. Just take us away to magic land. Magic land. In other words, right, we were sold this concept that all you have to do is swing and use these K-bells like this, and you will, and then whatever it is you want, right? Insert whatever your biggest desire is here. Be 240 pounds of ripped, wiry muscle, action figure, Hulk smashing, whatever, right? You get my drift. But the problem is, at the end of the day, the kettlebell is just a tool, right? It's a better tool than many other implements out there. But again, it's a tool nonetheless, right? So if you have fallen into this trap, and I'm sure you probably haven't, you probably know a friend or two, right? You probably got a friend, because I had a friend. I had a friend who fell into this trap about 20 years ago. But if you want to avoid falling into this trap, or you want your friend to avoid falling into this trap and fooling yourself from hopping from one workout program to the other workout program to another workout program to the 5th workout program this week, whether it's a kettlebell, right? We're talking about kettlebells, but whether it's kettlebell and body weight, or barbell and kettlebell, or some kind of hybrid, right? Well, then what you have to do is pick your number one goal. Track it, measure your outcome over time, and stick with it. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you're training for strength. It doesn't matter if you're training to look good naked, as we say, the old LGN, or you want to improve your heart health. Find out your number one goal, right? Decide. Only you can decide. Track it and stick with it. Okay. The reality is, many of us who are using kettlebells, who are over a certain age, we come from an athletic background, or we come from a powerlifting background, or we come from a bodybuilding background. But the reality is, most of us don't want to be powerlifting strong anymore or look like pro bodybuilders. Those goals, they take too much time, right? The cost of recovery is way, way, way too high. Now, what I'm about to say next is probably heresy, and you may just want to shut this video off. But, most of us, myself included, don't want to look like the Hulk, right? Although admittedly, that would be kind of cool, with the exception of the green skin, right? And most of us, I think this just goes without saying, most of us, we don't care if we run that 100-mile ultra endurance race, right? Like most of us, we just don't have the time or the desire to do that. But look, being what I call strong enough, right? Which is the definition to me of looking strong enough, or being strong enough, is looking decent both in your clothes and with our shirts off, and having the capacity and the energy to do what needs to be done without sucking wind and gassing out. I think that'd be a good place to end up. Those are good goals. Wouldn't you agree? Right? I think you probably would. So that's why I recommend most guys, and yeah, even the women who are watching this, focus on the concept of recomposition training. What's recomposition training? Or I like to call it recomping. You've probably heard that. Maybe you haven't. But recomp or recomping is the simultaneous stripping off of body fat and growing muscle and getting stronger at the same time. Now, I've had people argue with me about it's impossible to do that at the same time, at the very exact second. You can't grow muscle and lose fat, right? Like you're either catabolic or anabolic. You can't be both at the same time. That's not what I'm talking about. Right? Let's not be pedantic here. What I'm talking about is in the same training block. So in the same 4 weeks, the same 6 weeks, the same 8 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks, however you want to measure it, over the course of the time, you are simultaneously stripping off body fat, growing muscle, and getting stronger. Okay. Now that is compared to traditional programming where you're doing one of three things, right? You only care about how strong you are. You only care about how big and how muscular you get, or you only care about how much fat you lose. So why the contrast between recomping and these other three traditional outcomes, right? These other three traditional goals. So simple. It's really simple. It's less energetically demanding, both emotionally, physically, and psychologically, right? And less time consuming than focusing on getting ripped or getting jacked, right? Both of those require a lot of focus. I have been single digit body fat. I have been jacked, right? When I got to single digit body fat, I was training almost, let me add this up. I was training 80 minutes a day, 6 days a week. And when I was super yoked, right, about 252 pounds, I was training 3 to 5 days a week, about 2.5 hours a day. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure that my family, my kids, my wife would not appreciate me disappearing for 2.5 hours a day. All right. My training sessions are a maximum of an hour. And that's what I recommend for you. Okay. So recomping is basically what I call the training sweet spot. So will you get huge or jacked recomping? No, you're not. But you are going to build an appreciable amount of muscle mass, right? Not nearly as much as you would on a hypertrophy focused mesocycle or training cycle, right? But the good news is you'll also have a life, right? You'll also be able to get up out of a chair without your legs and your hips screaming at you because you trained to failure. You'll also be able to go up and down the stairs without death gripping the railing because you're afraid to fall because your legs aren't working, right? You'll also be able to comb your hair, pick up your kids, roll around with them on the ground if you want to, because you're not so sore that you can barely breathe because you did what Perry Rader's, the super squats program, right? Where you're doing one set of 20 squats followed by one set of pullovers, right? Or some such craziness. Okay. Will you end up with a 600-pound, 270-kilo deadlift? Probably not. Okay. Maybe. I mean, it depends on where your deadlift is now. And, so maybe you had a 700-pound deadlift, and yeah, so maybe you will end up with a 600-pound deadlift. But I kid about that. I've never seen anybody's deadlift go down from using kettlebells, all right, unless they hurt themselves because they didn't follow, basic progression and programming principles, or they didn't follow my 5 levels, my 5-level pyramid of kettlebell training. Okay. So, the good news is using kettlebells, yeah, you may not get that big deadlift, but you know what? You're not going to be worried about jacking up your lower back either, because you'll have built the strength endurance in your posterior chain, especially your lower back. And, guys, professionals like Dr. Stuart McGill, who's the world's leading researcher, back spine researcher and biomechanicist, he says that lower back injuries come from a lack of strength endurance in the lower back, right? So guess what kettlebells build? Strength endurance. Guess what deadlifts don't build? You got it. Strength endurance. Maximum strength is what they build. Okay. So it's better to have the strength endurance than the maximum strength. The good news is with the kettlebells, you can build both. All right. So that's good news. Okay. So another thing, are you going to end up with 6-pack abs? Yeah, probably not, unless you get your diet dialed in, right? There are some people who say, and I've said this in the past, abs are built in the gym, but revealed in the kitchen. Okay. So, and there are those who say that 80% of your results of getting, ripped, getting those 6-pack abs, that's focused on nutrition, not on your workouts. Are they right? I don't know. They're pretty close though. Okay. Because I've focused on dieting. I've had clients focused on dieting. It doesn't really, I don't want to say workouts don't matter, but it's the compliance to diet that matters the most. The workouts can speed up or slow down the process. Okay. So, and the reality is most guys I know, they're not going for a 6-pack. They'd settle for a 4-pack. So, why not settle for a 4-pack? By the way, did you know, depending on how muscular your abdominals are, you can actually see your 6-pack at 10 to 12% if you have thick, beefy, right, rectus abdominis, which is actually the 6-pack muscles. So you may be thinking, well, okay, Jeff, how do I know if I'm actually recomping? Well, simple. You're going to do 3 things, like I said earlier. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to track your workouts. So you should see an increase in workload over the course of time. So you should be able to tell over 4, 6, 8, 12, 16 weeks that you are able to lift more. So as you do more and more work, your body will harden up and lean out. Again, assuming you're eating correctly and not eating like a jerk, right? Or a pig. Excuse me, that was politically incorrect, like a jerk. You're not eating like a pig. That's probably politically incorrect too. Whatever. So you're not overeating, okay? And you are actually using the correct programming variables that allow your body to recover from your training in a reduced caloric state, okay? That's one of the things that you have to do when considering the right programming. All right, so that's number 1. You got to track those workouts. Number 2, you've got to measure yourself, right? I think it was Peter Drucker. In fact, I know it was Peter Drucker. He was a management expert. He said, what gets measured gets managed, okay? So here's what you do. You grab a tape measure and you measure chest. You measure around your shoulders. You measure the guns, right? You measure your waist. You measure your hips. You measure your quads. And you do that every 30 days, okay? The other thing you're going to do is you're going to weigh yourself because you want a starting weight. Do that every 30 days. Take pictures of yourself, front, side, back. Use the same lighting, okay? Use the same pair of shorts. Do it at the same time of day. Preferably do it after you've gone to the bathroom so you're not holding on to any water or anything else, okay? Be consistent. And if you can, get your body fat measured. So use the calipers. Like what was it, 3 point, 6 point, 9 point, 12 point, whatever the points are these days, right? Use the caliper test. You can also use a bod pod. You can use a DEXA. In worst case scenario, use one of those digital Tanita scales. The point is that you're consistent and use the same thing over the course of time. Okay, so that's number 2. And finally, what you're going to do is you are going to run the numbers. Okay, you're going to look at this data that you've collected and you're going to assess it. How do you know if you're recomping? Well, a classic sign of recomping is when the scale actually doesn't really change that much. You don't seem to drop a whole bunch of scale weight. Yeah, you might drop 5 pounds to 10 pounds, right? 2.5 to 5 kilos over the course of 12 weeks, which, admittedly, that doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, sure, it's more than it is now, but, and this is the reason you took measurements, your chest is bigger. Your shoulders are bigger, right? The tail of the tape, as they say in boxing, right? Your arms are bigger. Your quads are bigger. Your hips are bigger. They're all bigger, but your waist is smaller, okay? And that's how you know you've lost body fat and growing muscle. That's why we can't always use the scale. And that's why most people who use the scale are perpetually frustrated because most people, whether they know it or not, accidentally fall into a recomp program. But they don't give it long enough. They don't give it a long enough time to see the results they're looking for. So they quit. Now, if you do these 3 things, you track your workouts, if you measure yourself routinely, and then you run the numbers, right, you will guarantee that you will see some sort of results, right? Results breeds motivation, which then breeds consistency, which then breeds more results, which then breeds more motivation, which then breeds more consistency, so on and so forth. And at the end of the day, if you do these 3 things, you will always, always know where you stand, and you will never fool yourself into thinking you're making progress when you're not, or give up on yourself because progress is slower than you expect. All right, so hopefully you found this helpful. If you need a recomp program, I'll leave a link in the description box below. If you like this program, if you like this video, click the thumbs up, the like button, leave me a comment, tell me what you think, subscribe if you haven't. Pass this along to your friends and tell them to like, comment, and subscribe too. All right. Until next time, my friend, stay strong.